that are risk management. We're going to change up the presentation a little bit if you've ever joined us in the past or viewed one of these town halls that we normally post on the DOAS risk management site. We're going to skip some of the stuff about who we are. I've moved a lot of those slides to the appendix, to the back end of the presentation. And hopefully this morning, if you haven't already received, you'll be getting a copy of this presentation. But we've also thrown in, you'll see that I've added the commentary called inputs, and those are comments or questions that you all registered or entered when you did the registration process. So thank you for those. We'll talk about some of them, and we'll plan to send out an additional component of this presentation that will give you more answers and more details around some of those questions. So to get it started, we've got a bunch of the risk management staff who will be involved today. I'll run the presentation. I'll ask someone on my team to make sure that I don't miss anything from a chat standpoint. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to ask if Miss Susan Setterstrom is available and could speak for a moment to the liability program.
Yes, I'm available. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Susan Setterstrom, for those who have not met me before, and I am the Assistant Director and Claims Counsel for DOAS Risk Management. And for those of you who remember, we had Mr. Jerome Wright, who was our liability program officer. Mr. Wright is no longer with DOAS. He left us to go work for Georgia Tech. He's now the director of risk over there. So for the time being, I am also serving as the liability program officer while we look for a replacement. So for those of you who have coverage questions or want to ask questions about general liability issues, topics, you can reach out to me. So if you're getting bounce back emails from Jerome, that's why. And please use me as that resource until we find a replacement. So just to recap, probably telling you stuff you already know, but the general liability program covers employees accused of negligent or wrongful acts while working in the course scope of employment. And one of the areas that falls into is auto liability. And wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about the difference between third-party auto liability and auto physical damage claims. So when you're driving a state vehicle, and if you damage that vehicle, it has auto physical damage coverage. So you can make that property damage claim to us. It's under my liability program, but it's a property damage claim. So keep that in mind if you are making those claims on IRM, that you would want to mark that as a property damage claim. It's going to come to me, but just keep that in mind. Now, just also think about this: when you're driving a state vehicle and you hit somebody, and you damage their car or they get injured, well, now you've turned into a third-party liability claim. That's also going to come to me, but that's called an auto liability claim. So there are going to be instances where you may have both. You're going to have an auto third-party liability claim, and you're going to have an APD claim. I just wanted to take a moment to kind of talk through the nuances of those claims, just because it seems like there might be some confusion out there. And if this is resonating with some of you and you want to talk about that more, feel free to reach out to me to talk through that, so that that's clear for everybody, because I don't like for folks to be confused on that. It can be confusing, so I understand, but I'd like to be that resource for you if you want to talk through that further. Some other things to talk about is our budget. We have the 75 million provided for fiscal year 24, and it looks like appropriation for fiscal year 25 is 175 million. And that's good news for us, because these claims are not slowing down. We're getting a lot of them, extremely litigious landscape right now. So we are doing our best to get in early and resolve claims so they don't become money pits for us. We need your help and your buy-in to help us know what claims are out there, so that we're in there early and we can do an investigation promptly and we can resolve claims that need to be resolved. And the PTSD program, Wade, did you want me to cover that, or was that one you wanted to go over?
Yeah, I'll take a moment if you don't mind, but thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate those points. And just a couple of quick comments. Susan is speaking to those folks and thanking those folks who are reporting claims online. Remember, you have that option through the IRM platform. It's actually called Digital. Digital is where you can go in and report liability claims, property claims, and we've tried, and you'll hear a little bit about it later when Dan speaks to IT. We've tried to make that landing page a little simpler. We had property and auto physical damage tied together. We're trying to put some verbiage to help you understand the difference in an auto physical damage claim, a liability claim, and a property claim. So we're working to make sure that's a little smoother for you. So thank you for clarifying some of that, Susan. And then again, I have to say it, I can't thank the DOS leadership team enough in the governor's office with that appropriation that you see at the top of the page. We are trying very hard to settle cases, but more importantly, we're trying not to impact the premium that we charge your organization. We don't want to continue to just go over and ask the governor for more money and then have to bill it back to you as a premium. And so this process of getting an appropriation based on the governor's great management of our fiscal income allows us to ask for those dollars, hopefully receive them as we have, and then pass those on to you by paying claims and developing additional loss control programs to help you stop your claims so that we don't have to continue to bill you. So those are great points, and I hope you appreciate them as you listen to and read about what's going on in the legislature during this session. And then I just want to, again, mention the PTSD program. It's called the Ashley Wilson Act. What it does is takes and makes PTSD, so post-traumatic stress syndrome, a covered item for first responders. And that first responder definition is quite expansive, but I want to just point it out again and make sure that you are familiar with it from a risk management standpoint. Most all of this will be managed by your human resources department, those folks. But when questions come back around, how do I file a claim? We want you to know where they're coming from. So on our website, the DOAS risk management website, you'll see an entire page dedicated to the PTSD program. I would offer for you to go out and take a look at that page and just get familiar with it and read a little bit about it. Folks who file those claims have the ability effective January 1st. We've already gotten a few claims from what I understand from the insurance carrier, but they have the ability to go back to July 1st of 24. And if a firefighter or EMT was involved in an event, even back to July of 24, and they're suffering from PTSD, they can file a claim. So if someone starts asking you as the risk manager, just so you'll have some knowledge about the program, again, I would recommend you take a look at that page and feel free to reach out to us and ask us any questions you might have. So again, thank you, Susan. Appreciate your time. Next, we're going to move on to the fund program of workers' comp. So I think Ms. Kim Oliver and Marcelina Scott have some commentary they'll speak to you about. Kim?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Just wanted to kind of touch base on the return to work project that we have been underway with since about 2022. We are strategically trying to identify the agencies that currently need some assistance as far as return to work goes. We have vetted the pilot agencies, which were DJJ, DOC, and DBHDD. So now we are in the phase that we are making assignments based on a claimant's work status. So if they are taken out of work or are placed on modified duty work status, then we are making a referral to the return to work specialist within that geographic region that would tend to those agencies in their assigned territories. So we have 6 return to work specialists that are situated throughout Georgia, and they are handling those in regions. So if you do get a reach out from a return to work specialist, understand that's where that's coming from. And of course, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Okay, Wade, did you want me to touch on that any further? I know we went over this the last town hall meeting, but of course, not everybody would be on that call, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I'm just going to make a quick comment, and that is, it's critical for you guys to work with Kim any chance you get, and Marcelina, and the Amerisys people that are involved from the actual clinical side of things. They are a great resource for you. And return to work ties, as you understand, specifically to an injury where someone is out of work, not able to come back full duty. Think about that. Those are the people that get to sit at home and watch those lawyers romp and ramp on TV about how much money they can get you for a lawsuit or a workers' comp injury, which I appreciate them doing that. But we want folks back to work. And Kim and her team, they can get in and understand your operation. They can help the physician groups understand your restrictions, and they can make amazing gains for you in getting your people back to work, because that's where the money is. The medical component of most workers' comp cases, the majority of them, is not as bad as the lost time. So if there's anything we can continue to do to help your organization and your line level supervisors in understanding return to work and helping get folks back to work, we're happy to do it. Kim's been inundated by the adjuster referrals, and so that's great news. It's great to know that we've got other agencies who are interested in having us help them understand lost time, return to work. So I want to thank Kim for her efforts in that area.
Thank you, Wade.
Yeah,
I'm going to actually jump over to the settlement project, because I think that's a great segue into the settlement project. If you have an injured worker that's on modified duty or is taken out of work by the authorized treating physician, and we just can't find anything for them to go back to, we are looking at those claims for settlement. So the settlement project started in FY22, the amended budget. We ended up settling 843 claims. We spent almost $60 million. So on that first round, we really targeted claims that were represented, where somebody had an attorney that they had leaned on for their work comp injury. So think about that just for a second, almost $160 million, and you take that times 33%. That's what these claimant lawyers got throughout the state of Georgia. So obviously that's a big number, something to think about. Of course, we have moved throughout the settlement project. We had a little unofficial kind of round 2 settlement after that phase 1 was completed, and that gave us a little bit more. We spent about $20 million on settlements during an unofficial round 2. But those claims were not officially funded by the Office of Planning and Budget. That was just what we were able to settle based on the money that we saved from round 1 of settlements. Okay. So currently we're in round 3 of settlements. We have, out of 669 claims, we have 525 that have reached a settlement agreement. Money out the door right now is about $55 million. So we do have about $4 million still pending, and settlements that have reached an agreement but have not been approved by the state board yet. They're kind of in that pending status. And just as a reminder for the group, if you do take a settlement through the state of Georgia through this work comp program, you are agreeing not to reapply for any other state job. Obviously, we don't want them to settle and then flip agencies and have another work comp claim under a different agency. So that's why we make that requirement. If you have any questions on settlement, or if you have a case that you would like us to consider for settlement that's still on your books, please reach out to me and let me know, or Marcelina, of course. She helps me in pretty much everything I do. She's my backup. So if I am not available, please reach out to Marcelina Scott, who can assist you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marcelina to cover the out-of-state work comp coverage. Marcelina? Is she on the call? Where do you see? Does anybody see Marcelina on the call?
I'm sorry, I still have my
There you go. Okay, thank you.
mic on mute. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. So I'm your out-of-state contact for, I'm your contact for all your out-of-state workers' comp coverage. And that's for all your employees who work out of state. Their primary workstation is out of state. That's not for your employees who commute from different states into the Georgia office, but those employees who work primarily out of state and their primary workstation is out of state. You want to make sure that you have workers' comp insurance for those employees. So if you have not provided us with those employees' information, please send me an email as soon as possible. It's very important because your agency can be penalized if you do not have that coverage based on that state laws. Currently, I'm working on next year renewal. So right now I'm in a process of gathering all the information from the agencies that I know have out-of-state employees. So if you haven't reached out to me yet, please do so as soon as possible. We can set up a meeting, a phone call, or whatever you need to go over that information, but make sure that you do that as soon as possible.
Thank you, Marcelina.
Thank you.
And that's an interesting coverage. We've provided it for several years now, but I'm trying to think of how we really communicate that back to the agencies. I know each year we send out information asking you to update your property data in BLIP. We ask you to update data in SPAR, but I'm not sure that we have done the right approach of making sure that as risk management coordinators, you guys are aware of the out of work comp. I know Kim does, as we get to the latter part of that renewal process, reach out to folks that we've worked with year in and year out. And that's wonderful. And thank you for providing her payroll data and head counts and whatever it is she needs. But I think we need to use this platform and some more, different communications to share with you more information about this work comp coverage for people that are out of state. There are times when we find out because another state's industrial commission or their workers' comp board reaches out and they say, we realize that the state has an agency paying payroll taxes in our state, but we don't see where you're buying workers' comp coverage. We just had that with the state of Idaho for one agency. And so sometimes that's how it gets triggered for us. We've also been attempting to work with the state accounting office as we go through this next gen Georgia at Work process to determine, is there a methodology where we can just go to the state accounting office and get data for every agency's pay that's out of state and maybe cross-reference in that route. So as the risk management coordinator, you might have to think a little bit about who you go to ask those type of questions. Is there an HR contact or a fiscal contact that could provide you any exposure data you may have that you hadn't thought about for people that work out of state? So as you do that and you have any questions, again, feel free, reach out to Marcelina. She can assist you and we can work with you and our insurance broker to make sure that we've got you the information you need to capture that data. So thank you, ladies, very much for touching on the work comp. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see where we went ahead and just added what I called inputs. Those are comments that folks made throughout the registration process. We have 4 town hall sessions, 2 today, 2 on Thursday, 2 next week, next Monday. But folks were able to throw in some comments and say, here are things we'd be interested in talking to you about. And so I'm gonna just quickly read them out. I know you all can read, but just for my own edification, but let you know that we're going to develop some responses to this and provide it back to you in a appendix type document to give you a little bit more detail to get through today, but provide you more data. So there was a question about work status reports after an injury. I think that's a great topic. So, that's one that.
Yes, sorry, Wade, I was just going to interrupt because the return to work specialist should be assigned at that point. I'm hoping that if you are not seeing work status reports after an injury, that will help eliminate some of that communication between an injured worker, the employer, and then workers' compensation. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick, Wade. Sorry.
Thank you, Kim. So what we're going to do after this is provide you a document that kind of walks through information about those. Some of you may not know what a work specialist is. So what we're going to do is provide you this topic and a little bit more detail around the process and some steps you can take to answer that one. Same thing will go for work comp program and expectations for agencies and supervisors, second medical opinions. All of this is going to tie right back into the vendor that is Amerisys and the folks that Kim and Marcelina talked to. So we'll give you some information to help you understand those processes as well. And then I think the third one should be pretty simple as well. There's a request for an updated worksheet used by adjusters when taking a work comp claim. So we might need to ask a little bit more about that question, but we'll put together some information that we think will be responsive, and we'll get that out to you guys probably by the end of next week once we get through all 4 of the town halls. So I appreciate you taking the time as you registered to put some thought into topics that we can address for you. And hopefully we'll be able to do that and continue this process going forward. So thank you, workers' comp team. Appreciate you, ladies. I'm going to jump into the property program. Miss Ann Thompson was under the weather, so if you get a chance, shoot her a message, tell her you hope she feels better. I'm going to speak for just a second about things that hopefully you've already heard about. The first one is always about money, right? The amended fiscal year 25, we were able to receive an additional appropriation for the property program. A lot of that stemmed from the damage that was incurred by numerous state agencies from Hurricane Helene. I know a lot of you are working with Ann and her team and trying to get those claims finalized. Some of you are working with FEMA. The governor made this a priority in the budget in the legislative session, and we were fortunate to be able to receive that appropriation to plunk it into our trust fund and be able to help make sure that we've got the right dollars in place to help folks recover from those losses. Please be reminded that DOAS has taken more skin in the property game. So our individual deductible from a state standpoint is $10 million per incident. So when you have a claim, make sure that you're reporting it to Ann. Let us be involved, help you with getting those cases resolved. And those of you who have Hurricane Helene claims, we're feverishly working to finalize some of the documentation requirements that are coming in from the external adjuster who's reviewing all of those claims. So we hope to help you get those dollars in your pockets here very shortly. Secondly, I'll talk about just for another second the censure risk, which was Asset Works. It's the appraisal process. That phase 2 is well underway. We've completed phase 1, and by the end of March, we'll have all the reports reviewed for phase 1. So that puts us in phase 2. Phase 2, we actually extended it out. They're going to be completing that process in May of 25, and we'll have those reports probably by the end of July. And what we'll want to do there is share with each of the agencies whose entities were touched during that appraisal process those reports, those dollar values. We'll review all of that with you. We're trying to make sure that we're tying in all of the blip ID numbers and any other items that they located on your campuses that might not have been in blip. We want to coordinate those so that when we report back to you, we can show you clearly which items were in blip, which items were not in blip, and validate the appraisal processes so that you can help us make sure that before we flip it into blip, that we're all in agreement on what those values will be. They will become the replacement cost value, and they will also become the value that is used as we develop your insurance premium. So getting those numbers accurate will be critical, and hopefully down the road will help you from the standpoint of having to go into blip and update stuff. We're hoping that this appraisal process will take that off your shoulders at some point down the road. So appreciate all your work on the property program. Quickly on the input side of things, you'll notice one of the first questions was around Hurricane Helene. Where are the claims? How are they doing? Some questions came in about blip values. Unfortunately, those are still your responsibility to go to the State Property Commission tool and update those blip values. So we'll put together a tool that lays all of that out, and we'll give you some direction on calculating values for both buildings and contents. We'll provide you some training around blip and just the awareness of how that program works. There are 2 or 3 different tabs that you're asked to look at when you go into blip. One of them is called Other Assets. So we'll expand on how you categorize items to go in each of those components. There are a lot of interesting things in other assets, and as I've done research over the past 10 years, we've made decisions really based on a lot of different scenarios, and we pick up and cover things that you'd be surprised that are in there, but they're legitimately in there. So we'll lay that out for you and really give you some guidance around what you want to put in that tab that is Other Assets. SPAR will provide you information around all the categories of SPAR and greater detail around items that you might want to put in each of those buckets. The one listed here is called transient items, and those are items that you own, but that may be moving around from one campus to the other, on site, off site. So we can help you with that. And then finally, we'll talk about glass damage for equipment. So we'll put together a tool, touch on those topics, and again, look forward to additional topics as we do these town halls. So thank you all for that. Any questions in the chat at this point? Can you guys, somebody tell me if I'm missing anything? And if not, I'm going to transfer on over to the loss control program. I'll ask CG Lawrence to jump in there.
Good morning, everybody. Loss control is still here, alive and well. If we can help you in any way, just give us a call. We've got some new staff. Lloyd Williams is our newest member. Lloyd, you want to turn on your camera real quick and just say hello? All right.
Hello, everyone.
There he
Lloyd
is.
Williams. You're happy to be a part of the team. Thank you, CG.
All right. And he just finished last week a grueling 40 hours with me. He finished his AAA instructor class. We did that last week. And he was able to get in that and get through that. So he's hitting the ground running here. So we're gonna make some changes in April. Direct a loss control director, and also we're going to be changing the assignments a little bit. Right now we're kind of an agency based. We have some regional stuff, but we're going to more of a regional map, and so we're changing that, finishing up on that, and we're still trying to finish up the last assessments, and we're working on those and trying to wrap those up this month to finish those online. And we continue to make visits, and hopefully with the way we're separated out into regions, we'll be able to get to you quicker and more often than we have. And then Wade wanted to talk about the input, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, CG. Again, this is a quick and short slide, but one of tremendous value to you as a risk management coordinator. You guys wear 1,000 hats, and at the DOAS site, I've got 1,000 places that I need people to be. And over the years, we've had 2 loss control gurus. We've had CG and Hiram, who have been out there in the field for years. They've been here with us for a very long time, and we appreciate that. But again, OPB and the governor's office, they get tired of seeing my face. You can understand that, asking for more money. And so we were fortunate to say to them a couple of years back, look, can we work to expand the loss control program? Back in the day, there were 7 or 8 loss control reps. And so we've been very fortunate to have seasoned folks and then bring in additional folks. We've been fortunate to bring some of them over from other state agencies. We've hired some folks that have backgrounds that are going to be useful to you as well. So we currently stand at 6 folks in that loss control program, but we need a director. So we're going to make that appointment in April. In the past, those guys have reported up to me, and that's been a pain for them. So it's been long coming. We're going to make that appointment. We're going to announce it. But before we do, we're just wanting to make sure that we've got some of the agency assignment stuff figured out. Think about 2 individuals. Then we went to 4, and then we brought on 2 new guys who are going to be wonderful, but we've been holding them back because we haven't made the assignments yet. So we're about to unleash those folks and make sure that we communicate very clearly with you and all of your resources who those contacts will be. We're going to have a couple of different layers of contacts because, again, we're going to ask our staff to get to every location at some point in time over the next 2 or 3 year period. We're going to continue to use the online assessment process, but we need to evaluate that and the data that we've pulled out of that process to determine what the future cadence will be. Do we need to continue to do that online assessment every year? Can we have a process that we're looking at it every 2nd year? And I think all of that ties into the number of staff members we have and how we efficiently assign those to get them into your workspace when you need us. And hopefully you will need us. We want you to call, talk to those loss control folks. They are some great resources. We need to make available resources for you and help you develop new resources. So please look forward to those announcements and make sure that you know who your contact is and then utilize them on a routine basis. So when I talk about the input, some of the commentary you provided, the first one is critical. It's about the online assessment process, right? CLCP. What are the things, what are the recommendations that you can do to improve your scores? That's a great question, and it's a resource tool that we'll make available to you. the FY26 submission deadline. That again is something that we're going to determine. We may push it out a year, but we're going to hopefully be able to get your input and not open that process or close it when it's in the middle of budget development processes or fiscal year end close. We understand how much of a burden that is. It's a burden on our team as much as it is you guys. So appreciate that comment. And then best practices in weather emergency response for TCSG colleges. Great question. So we've got resources around all of that for not only TCSG or USG, but all state agencies. So we'll put together a tool and make that resource available to you. And I look forward to getting it out to you. So CG and all of the loss control staff and the new members, thank you all for everything you do and appreciate your time today. I'm going to jump back to IT or jump into IT and ask Tim White, Dan Osmond, any of those folks to jump in. I think Dan has got some updates and some comments. So IT.
Good morning, everybody. I'm the old guy in risk management. I tried to retire a couple of years ago, and Wade wouldn't let me. So my background is where it's where I live now. Not really. It's where I wish I was. But thanks for joining. Just to go over a little of what we're doing. A lot of you have heard some of these things. We use a couple of products from Ventive Technologies, now acquired by Risk Connect. What you may have heard as Risk Console is now IRM, and it's now a Risk Connect product, and it's exciting to see Risk Connect kind of a bigger fish in the in the REMIS world, taking over those tools and making some improvements. So looking forward to things to come there. We provide a tool. When I came to DOAS 125 years ago, first thing I was challenged to do was to find a way to provide data back to the agencies. We were collecting data, we were looking at claims data, but we were not giving it back to the agencies. Risk Console and IRM were the solution to that problem, and it's what we've got to date. I think there's still room to improve there. If you don't have a seat in IRM, please let us know and we'll get you in it. We want you to be able to see the data, and it's the tool that we're using to help us collect some data. So you got a seat in IRM, you can see kind of how we think you're doing right now with your losses. From a claim perspective, you can see the results of your online assessment tool. There's more we want to add to that. You can run loss run reports to get lists of open claims or claims that you've had during a period of time, things like that. Also, Wade mentioned the digital online claim intake tool. I want to quickly announce some changes in that. This tool's been out there for, I don't know, 3 years now. It's a place where you can go to send us auto liability, liability, property, and auto physical damage claims without having to send them by paper, without having to call into the network and sometimes wait on hold to have them take those claims in. So it's a tool where you can go and quickly put in those claims. You can't do workers' comp. It's auto, liability, and property only at this point. We had hoped to have an update to those forms available today. We're hours away from getting a new version of the forms out there, and there's some pretty good changes. If you've used the tools, you'll probably know there's some places where it's a little confusing, a little cumbersome. We've cleaned up a lot of things. One of the things that I'm most excited about, and it's easy to make me happy, is we have the ability to add tooltips into the forms. So when you get to the place where it's asking if you've got an auto liability claim or an auto physical damage claim, there'll be a little place where you can hover and see what we think you should choose there. What's the difference in auto liability and APD? So we're going to be adding those as we go. if you use the tool and you have any comments about it, if there are things that you see that are confusing, let us know, because we're going to be building out those tool tips as soon as we get this thing in production. What else? The online assessment tool. We've been working kind of behind the scenes on the online assessment tool. We've had some issues with some of you submitting those assessments and them not making them to us. We've been working a lot behind the scenes to improve that. So if you got a strange call from us saying, why didn't you do the survey? And you tell us, well, we did, that's because it was hung in the system and we're working on that. So please let us know if you need access. Let us know if you have any feedback. I'm always looking for reports to build. Like I said, now we've got the ability to run loss runs to give you a lot of information on your claims. I've also had requests to create some kind of financial detail to show you what the money looks like related to your claims. So working on some things like that. Wade, have I missed anything?
No, but can I prompt you? I would go ahead, Dan, and mention the IRM IT email and maybe throw that in the chat.
Yes.
Explain the utilization of that tool.
Yep. The IT team here is about 5 of us. 2 of us are part-time. It's a good team. We're a lot better able to stay on top of things than we were a few years ago. The best way to get to us, if you have questions about IRM, if you need access, if you have security problems, if you just have suggestions about it, email us at rms.it@doas.ga.gov. That list goes to the whole group of 5 of us so that we can get your request to the correct person quickly. The email address for Wade, I'm going to should have asked about this before, for setting up a new account. You can always email rms.it@doas.ga.gov. We're going to get you in touch with INYOTA Read if you do that, so that INYOTA can get the sign up form to you. But feel free to use that email address.
Thank you, Dan. And the other comment you mentioned that I would go ahead and talk about would be what's happening this Friday with one of the vendors.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So this Friday, we use a company. If you've been around for a while, you might recognize NetClaim or The Network. That's the company that we use for calling in workers' comp claims. If you dial the 800 number to call in a claim or an auto claim. They're doing some maintenance this weekend. They're actually, that company was bought by another bigger fish, and they're moving some of their services around this toward the end of this week. Friday morning, I believe at 5 a.m., the net claim reporting will be offline. You will not be able to, it'll be hit or miss to call in to report a claim. They're going to try to limit the time that it takes the phones offline as much as possible. So hopefully it's only down for a couple of hours or so. If you need to report a claim, be patient, and you will get in. If you're able to get in and report a claim, they may take it on paper if you call a claim in Friday morning, and after they've restored their services at the new location, they'll have to get all of that keyed in. So we may be a little slow receiving comp claims Friday. If you're trying to report a claim Friday, just be patient. If you're not getting through, call back later in the morning. And we'll be sending the communications out about that to everyone. I just wanted to mention that to you today, since we got you guys on the call. What else?
Thank you, Dan. No, that's a great one, because Dan and one of the loss control gurus, Todd, we went to DPS and did some training with state troopers about using digital. They've jumped in with both feet in reporting their auto physical damage claims. So Dan and I are talking in the room. We were going through reporting through, whatever the vendor was called, Network, Navix, and the guys in the room just kind of looking at us. And finally, Todd raised his hand and said, "Hey guys, it's the 1-800 number." And the room lit up. Everybody understood. Oh yeah, that's a frustration and aggravation. So we understand it, but it is a great tool. That vendor has changed. They've had leadership change, and they've grown. So they were picked up by another vendor, but they're working through some issues and making some platform changes. So we'll get that notification out to you. And if you have any issues around reporting claims, just let us know. But make sure you continue to use that tool. And if you're not using it, have any questions, let us know that as well.
Wade, let me say one more thing about the digital claim intake, if I can. We had
Yes, sir.
We had a lot of input from several agencies about the tool and to make these changes that we're making. There's another simple change that we made as a request from public safety that may impact you guys, the other agencies. DPS reports a lot of auto physical damage claims to us. They wanted a way to track their claims to their accident numbers, to their accident report numbers. So they asked us to add a field to let them key their accident numbers. We added the field, and it's going to be available to everybody. I forgot now what we call it, but it's like an agency-specific identifier for the claim. If you track your claims on your own outside of our system and you would like to tie our loss run data back to whatever tracking mechanism you have, you'll be able to enter like an agency claim number or an agency ID on the form now, and you use it however you want. We'll be able to feed that data back to you in reports to help you tie things together. So kind of a simple change that's going to help them a good bit. I hope it helps the other agencies. That you should start seeing that change, the new forms within hours or days. We're just waiting for them to get those in production.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate all of that very much. Last couple of points here would be stuff you've heard me talk about. We're trying to get to the end of it. I forgot to update the dates here, but we have a process where we have an RFP that has been on the street that's getting close to being finally evaluated and notice of intent to award hitting the street. That would be for our TPA services. So right now that vendor is Georgia Administrative Services. Within that RFP, we would be looking at the company that is Amerisys and the services they provide. That's called the Managed Care Organization. So that's all of the clinical, bill review, pharmacy benefit management. We have that on the street. We have vendors that have proposed, and we're working to get that awarded. So we'll be sharing information with you around that. Whatever that decision may be, we'll have to make sure that you all are aware of it. And if there are any changes, we'll have to work with you to go through change management. So you'll know if there are any changes in reporting numbers or any of that fun stuff. And then just this past week, 2 weeks ago, we put out a risk management information systems RFP. That would be a tool that steps into the role, a standalone tool for what we're currently doing with IRM. We're going clearly to buy that tool. There will be a change in what we're doing now, probably. And that tool will allow us to really consolidate a number of different pieces of data that might be able to help you as you think about your exposures and where they lie and where your claims are coming from. So we're excited about that. That RFP hit the street. That should have been updated to say March 1st. And we'll be working toward getting that ready to go and running it parallel with the TPA if there are any changes there. So there's a lot of stuff available to you in IT, a lot of changes. We're excited about the Risk Connect role that they're playing. They're really bringing additional resources to the table that are helping us develop some of these tools that we've talked about for a long time. And so as you look at your data, maybe that's a topic that you should put in for the next town hall. What is it that we can provide you from a data standpoint to help you manage your program? So I'm going to thank Dan and the IT team for all the work they do, and appreciate you guys and hope that people start reaching out to you even more so. So we're getting close to the end. What time is it? We're pushing 10:46. I just kind of threw in the inputs on the end so you guys could see those as well. There are a bunch of things. We talk about training. Some folks ask for additional information on how we calculate loss costs and the percentages and how people can project their annual premiums. That's a good topic. We've got some data we'll share there. One of the questions was around teleworking, the utilization of teleworking and the benefits of it. We'll get into more data if you're interested in the PTSD. I think I typed that wrong. There was a question. I'm not sure if someone sent that or if I just picked it up from something that Tammy was sharing with you. There was a question around what is SurveyMonkey, which is a platform and a tool where you can ask questions and get insights. So we'll put a blurb in there. And then last couple talk about are there any new laws or regulations around risk that you might need to be aware of? We can talk to you about future premiums and what we're thinking there and how the CLCP process might be used in that process. And then again, finally, sorry, I left a second duplicated a question. So those were some of the items that we'll include in this tool that we'll be sending back to you to give you additional information around risk management topics that you can utilize and have a resource at your fingertips. There's the list in total. Again, I love to do this because you guys understand it, and we want to make sure that we're the resource to help you get to the bottom of the issues that impact your program, your organization, and be able to tell the people above you, why is it important to deal with risk management? We think the main reason is we want to help you keep your people safe, protect your assets and your resources, and then most importantly, help you save dollars that are going toward safety and loss, or going toward claims that maybe you could use towards safety and loss control. So I'm going to put this slide up and tell you, don't forget this slide. Anytime you have questions, you want to schedule a meeting, make sure you're looking at our website. Know that those resources are out there. They're available for you, and we want you to use them. And then more importantly, we want that feedback. Don't wait. Provide us positive, negative. Feedback is critical. We can't help you. We can't change our processes. We can't improve our processes without having your feedback. You guys are the eyes and the ears and are doing a wonderful job for your organizations, and want to help. We want to help make sure that we're supporting that in every way possible. So I'm going to stop there. You'll see as you go through this presentation, the remaining slides are stuff we talk about every time. Who are we? What does risk do? I left some of the financial data in there for you to review. So make sure you take a look at all of that stuff, and any questions you have, come back to us and let us know how we can support you. So I'm going to unfortunately put my face back on the screen and make sure that I haven't missed anything from a question standpoint. It doesn't look like it. I'll ask one last time, does anybody have anything they want to throw their hand up for at this point in time? If so, feel free. If not, please take the rest of your time, take a look at those slides, make sure that you are reaching out to us at any point and giving us your feedback. So I'll ask anybody from the risk management team on the call who didn't participate, who has anything to offer, feel free to shout at me, let me know. I know Tammy and her team are here. They do a ton of work. You guys know and have met Nidra and all of our different folks. So if they don't raise their hand, but you have a question for any of those people, please reach out to us, email us, call us. And we thank you for your time and appreciate you and enjoy working with you all. All right. Have a great afternoon. Thank you again for joining. Take care.
Thanks, Wade.
Thank you, Wade.
Thank you, Wade.